So how does that fit into where the city's future planning is? And does that current list of parking spaces support any future build out of any part of downtown? And I'm just adding that as a comment.
Yeah, good point. I mean, we've tried to redevelop our downtown since I was a teenager, and we haven't accomplished that yet. So it's been quite a struggle. But thus far, we don't have an oversupply of people coming here yet. We hope to change that.
I'm hearing of 3 different housing projects. Apartment
Yes.
projects. So, and are the parking places conveniently located for all 3 of those projects if they do actually get built? And then what may follow that? So if you're able to build out 3 apartments and that becomes a catalyst for other development, what does the city wants to try to attract first of all, and then where are the available parking spaces to help support that?
I can speak to one of those proposed apartment buildings, and that's the one I refer to as Huron Park, also known as the across the street from the old City Hall project. That proposed apartment building does not have adequate parking. It's, I suppose, by the developer's design. They, in my opinion, could have designed it with a parking garage below the building, but they haven't chosen to do that. They've chosen to try and instead lease spaces from the city, and that's a valid option. But I think it would be better, again, this is just my personal opinion, that residential buildings should have their own parking paid for by the developer, whether it's under the building or however it may be. So the other 2 proposed apartment projects, I don't know enough details about them. So, questions, comments? Gail Bergman.
Hi, my name is Gail Bergman. I'm the co-chair of the Mayor's Environmental Sustainability Task Force and Green Energy. I'm also an environmental scientist at the Health Department, and I live in Rosedale, just for location context. So I just want to add to this conversation in the environmental context of this. The transportation sector makes up about 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions in the KC metro area, and that includes KCK. And outdated, minimum parking requirements further exacerbates that. It's just kind of a loop we never get out of. If we keep requiring parking, we keep building out our roads, and we keep building things farther apart, and we don't put adequate investment into pedestrian infrastructure like sidewalks or biking infrastructure or transit. Like Chris was saying, a lot of UG employees work remote. I can work remote 3 days a week. And because I have a vehicle at work now that I can drive and I don't have to use my personal car to drive, I rarely actually drive to downtown KCK anymore. I can take the bus because I live 1 street over from Rainbow Boulevard, and I can take the bus and it drops me off in front of City Hall. So I think we need to really think about if we want more parking or if we want to eliminate or reduce some of the parking we have. And one of the first steps in that is better utilizing the stuff we already have, like Chris is saying. We have empty parking lots sometimes during the day, at night, and it shifts depending on demand. Residential parking, if it's only for residents, tends to be pretty empty during the day when people go to work, and it's pretty full at night when people come home, versus a work office situation where it's more full during the day and empty at night. So you can mix that and have a shared parking model where one of the businesses, is using it for the day and the other is using it at night, so that you're more efficiently using that space 24/7 instead of having 2 equivalent parking lots that are half full depending on the time of day. So that's just something to consider. I believe the planning code we have for parking is, for at least for residential, it varies depending on the usage, but for residential, it's 1 parking spot per housing unit. And that doesn't always pencil out as far as being necessary, depending on how the household is divided. You might have 2 adults and one of them works remote fully and one goes to work. So they might only have 1 car because they don't feel like they need to have 2 cars. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I know it's been an issue with the potential loss of Kinship Cafe being potentially lost to create a surface parking lot for multifamily, multi-use development. We definitely want multifamily, multi-use development, But we need to update our parking minimums and get better shared parking policies so that we don't lose businesses for surface parking, which has one of the lowest, if really negative return on investment as far as productivity. Chris was talking a little bit about the cost. Back in 2020, when the article I read was published, a surface lot could cost anywhere from 5 to 10K. That was 3 years ago. I'm sure it's higher, and it depends on the local economy as far as actual cost. A garage, above or below ground, I believe below ground is more expensive than above ground. One space in a garage can be anywhere from 25K to 50K in the total construction cost of building that garage per space, $25,000 to $50,000, which also makes building low-income housing hard. That's going to be passed on to the renter, and that's going to make it hard for us to have affordable housing if we're requiring excessive parking for a portion of the population who is statistically less likely to have a car because of the cost it is associated with owning a car. I think a new car right now, the average cost is $48,000, and the average monthly car payment in the United States is $700. So there's a lot of factors to discuss around parking. And parking requirements is definitely going to be a topic we talk about in the sustainability task force. And we're going to probably suggest that we decrease or eliminate our parking minimum requirement in Wyandotte County. Thank you.
Gail makes some good comments. I think this issue of better utilizing our existing parking assets is a double benefit. It's a financial benefit, which is of interest to me. It's also an environmental benefit, also of interest to me and Gail and others. So I think it's just one small thing. There's many things we need to do here in Wyandotte County to get our taxes down and our BPU bills down. We need to save money, make it easier to live here. And this task force is going to look at a lot of different subjects, from small to big, and from simple and boring to alarming maybe. And the idea is to look at anything possible to be more efficient with public dollars. So I wanted to broach this discussion of parking garages and parking spaces, get the subject started. Perhaps we can come back to it again some months down the road. Are there any further questions on parking garages, et cetera, before we move on to the next subject of free stuff? Anybody going once, going twice?
I see none online.
Anybody online have any more discussion on parking? Okay, let's move on then to free stuff the UG gets from BPU, our second topic. Bill Johnson and his staff have prepared a short memo for us. I hope that's available online. Hope that you can see it. It's kind of a one-page memo with 5 items of quote unquote free stuff that the UG gets from the BPU or takes from the BPU. There it is. I can see that. I hope you guys can too. Bill, would you want to lead this discussion?
I'll turn it over to Lori. She helped prepare all this. Lori, can you see it online?
Yes, I can.
Okay. If you can introduce yourself. And
Okay. My name is Lori Austin. I'm the Chief Financial Officer and Chief Administrative Officer for the Board of Public Utilities, over kind of the finance area, and also a portion of the utility billing, mostly for our large commercial and industrial customers. But we work with customer service on customer information as well. I'll just kind of walk through what are the questions that were asked for us to provide the information. That first question there is, how many electric and water meters does the unified government have? So we identify the service addresses in our billing system to identify that they are unified government properties. So there's currently 434 service addresses in our system. Second question was, who are our biggest users? There are, I think we've listed kind of 10. I don't believe they're in any particular order there, but mostly probably the bigger ones there are City Hall and the Justice Complex there on Ann. We do also provide the power for the water pollution systems, and they are big users of our power. Fire department, health department, Memorial Hall, all are there that we provide, as well as a couple of rec centers, one in Argentine and one in Eisenhower. Third question is the actual usage of water and electricity by the unified government of those 434 locations. So in 2022, the KWH, which is the electric usage, there is 41.2 million KWH. And then on the water side, it's about 1.9 CCFs, which 1 CCF equals about 750 gallons. So we bill by CCFs.
So Lori, by comparison, what would be an average residential home for KWH and CCF?
I would say an average residential electric would be, it's about 800 to 850 KWH. And a residential water customer, probably 3 to 5 CCF, maybe a little bit to 6 CCF for a residential customer. Next question there is the payment in lieu of taxes that are on the BPU bill are the percentage is provided by the unified government as part of their budget process. And so the value of that in 2022 is about $37.1 million that was on the BPU bill that is transferred over to the unified government. Some of the other fees that are on the BPU bill, and these are basically BPU bill is just, our BPU is just the biller, and when the money comes in, we just remit it straight over to the unified government. So in 2022, the water pollution or sewer, as it's identified on your bill, is about 46.5 million. The trash, 9.5 million. And then stormwater fee is about 5 million in total. And that's all customer classes, not just residential. Some of the other, what we identify kind of as contributions to the community in the sense of getting these bills out and everything, we identify, that we provide free services for the collection of those charges. And that's what identification there of the banking treasury fees, just us collecting those through checks, cash, the credit card fees. So you're able to pay your bill, through a credit card or electronic check. The BPU absorbs that fee. We do provide traffic signal and street light maintenance to the community for all traffic lights and street lights. If there is a new subdivision or new intersection, the unified government does pay for that initial construction of that area. As I stated there, the BPU provides for, all the billing and the collection services. IT service for billing. So whenever there's changes, to any of the rates for sewer, stormwater, even the change in if the pilot percentage changes, our IT provides that service to update our billing system. And then our staff is the one that tests that to make sure that the changes were accurate. The customer service, so when customers have any issues, they call our customer service or contact us through a number of ways. So all of our staff time associated with that is absorbed within BP's rates. And then this, what I identified above, what IT services, so testing rates and billing to ensure any changes to the unified government's portion of the bill is calculated and collected properly. And then we also provide the postage and printing of the utility bill. You know, we're trying to get our customers onto what we call e-bill, that we can send the bill out through the email. And then that is very much more cost effective for us. It's, you know, costs quite a bit. Postage keeps going up, as well as the cost of paper and processing time. So it's a matter of sending an email out to get your utility bill, then that would help in reducing some of that cost. And then just the internal labor, I think we talked about indirect costs. So, you know, just making sure things are billed right, we're answering the questions, we're, you know, if there is something having to do with their sewer rate or anything like that, we initially take the call. We do then try to pass it on to the unified governments like water pollution department or whatever, if it's a you know, question that we can't answer, if it's, you know, just about the calculation of what the average rate is or anything like that. I think that's it. Is that the end of it there? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Mhm.
I'm going to start out since I'm the chairman. I have a couple of questions. On these fees, the various fees, the sewer fee, trash fee, and stormwater fee, is there some type of formula? How is it billed? There must be some type of formula. For instance, the stormwater fee, is that, I think that's based on square footage of the property maybe, or, and the sewer fee, is that based on gallons of usage, or what's the formula or schedule for sewer, trash, and stormwater?
So the unified government, you know, is responsible for, you know, what goes into what their rate is. So, you know, I think for their sewer, they do a cost of service, and I think they even have done a cost of service study on their stormwater most recently. But I mean, they go through that to figure out what their costs are. The calculation on the sewer, there's an average water usage. I may be off a month or two, but I think it's from December to March, whatever your average water usage is, and that's the calculator basically to determine whatever the sewer rate is times that usage. So if, like, you know, over that 4-month period, you used an average of 4 CCFs, then whatever their sewer rate that they have determined times that average is the charge. The stormwater currently is just a flat fee. I think it was, you know, it was $4 or $4.50 for a long time, and now it's gone up to, for residential anyway, it was $6, and then I think they increased it just this last year. It's like maybe $6.10 or something. Stormwater, they are going to a new model, which I think is supposed to be in effect in January of 2024. So, which is not just a flat rate, it is based on square footage or rate associated with that. Now, the unified government will be giving us that information. So there's not any studies that we have done in order to come up with those rates and everything. It's the responsibility of the unified government to provide us with that. We just put the charge on the bill. And then I think the trash is the same way. They have a contract with, I believe, Waste Management. And so that fee is calculated based on that contract.
Okay, so, but the sewer fee is based on your water consumption. And you said that was like March to,
December to March, you come up with an average. So like
December to
if,
March.
yeah, so if you from December to March, whatever you've used in that 4 months, to create an average of that 4 months. So let's just, for example, I used 3 1 month and then 4, the rest of the 3 months or whatever, the average would probably be 4 CCS. And so that calculation would be 4 times whatever the sewer rate is. And I think that they have different rates. They have residential, they have, they do different rates for restaurants and businesses and things like that.
Okay, thank you. I had another question. Would it be possible, if maybe you've generated a report already, but on number 2, which meters and properties of the UG are the biggest consumers? I would be interested personally to see those in usage order. So the top users of electricity are number 1. If this is somewhat easily doable for you, if it's in a database already, it'd be nice to see which UG properties, let's say the top 10 or 12 or something like that, are the biggest consumers of electric versus water.
Okay. So you're just
that
wanting
would-
like the top 10? Is that what or
How about
how
top
far?
15?
Okay.
Because I see a couple of them. I don't see the golf course on here as an example, and I would guess they use a lot of water, not much electricity.
Right.
And other than that, we seem like we've got most of the bit. We don't have the police department on here either.
Right.
And some of these will be bigger users of electric, and a few of the golf course maybe uses more water.
Right.
So it'd be nice to see if you could, if it's not too difficult, to show us both utilities, electric and water.
Right. And I'm thinking the report that this was pulled against is based on dollar value and not so much usage.
I see.
So
Well, that's pretty
you,
close.
yeah,
That's probably
so
close enough. If we just have the dollar value of what especially the water usage probably is not big on any of these, but
Right.
for the golf course. How are just the fire hydrants? Where do they come under? The firemen use the fire hydrants. Do those,
so
you,
yeah, I'm trying to think on the fire hydrants. I mean, that's just part of our contribution
part
to
of your budget.
community that we
Yeah,
provide the water. Go ahead, Bill.
They wouldn't be metered, Lori.
yeah,
So it would be, probably need to get with water on that and see what type of assumptions they're making for free water delivered through hydrants.
it's probably not
But-
that much.
But
People
yeah,
think it's a lot, but it's probably not.
but it's
It's
not
Toilet
considered
showers and dishwashers.
it's not considered a UG property though.
Hmm.
I mean, we don't have each of the fire hydrants, as under. it wouldn't
Okay, well, let's skip fire hydrants then.
Okay.
That's just a little esoteric. If you could please then focus on these top UG locations and what their dollar value of the electric and water that they're using. If that's relatively easy
Should be.
report to provide, it would be appreciated. And I had one other. On the final item, number 5, UG portion of credit card fees. I think I know what that means, that when someone pays their bill by credit card, the credit card company is normally charging 2 or 3 or 4%. And are you saying that the UG portion of that 2 or 3%? Is that what you're referring to in that line item?
Yeah. So it's because UG charges are on the bill.
Okay.
I mean, so when somebody pays their utility bill, the BPU absorbs all of that. cost.
Okay.
So let me say this too. So unlike other cities, all of the charges that the unified government puts on the bill for BPU, when you go to Overland Park or Kansas City, Missouri, those would come from, part of it would come from Evergy, which is an investor-owned utility. You would only get an electric bill. You would get certain charges from the city, Kansas City, Missouri, some from Jackson County, some from Overland Park, some from Johnson County. Here, it all shows up on one bill together. So when the customers are paying, whatever the total amount for that bill is and the credit card fee associated with it, BPU is eating the cost for all of that, and the unified government is not sharing in any of that cost. And then all of the bill as a whole, the entire cost of producing and managing and servicing a bill is all borne by BPU, and the unified government pays for none of that.
And I'll draft up an email to either the legal department or the budget department and ask how exactly what their sewer fee, storm fee, and trash fee, and the rationale for those. I'll get that memo drafted up here in the next few days. All right. Do we have other questions or comments from other participants here?
I'll just add again for the environmental
Gail?
part, Gail Bergman. It would, so currently, you know, if the unified government doesn't directly pay for any of these types of fees or services, they really have no incentive to have more efficient buildings or use less water, things of that nature. And, you know, I mentioned earlier about a third of greenhouse gas emissions are transportation related. The other 2/3 are buildings, pretty much is maintaining buildings. So that's commercial and residential. And if we want to reduce that, and if we want to set a good example as a government, it would behoove the unified government to act in a way that would, they are incentivized to reduce their usage, which one way would be them paying for utilities within their buildings. So otherwise, you really have no incentive to be more efficient if you're not paying for it.
Other questions and comments from the people online?
Hi, it's Kimberly. I have a few questions.
Yes, please.
My first question is, are there UG service addresses that actually pay for their services?
There's only one area of the unified government that pay for part of his electricity, but not all of it. Water pollution pays for our purchase power, ERC, which is about a third of the bill. From Lauren, correct me if I'm a little bit off, but probably amounts to around a third of their bill. The other 2/3 that everybody else pays, BPU receives no income from the unified government on that. So it's a severely discounted rate on. So for you, Kimberly, when you get your bill, you've got fixed charges, and then you've got a fuel and purchase power charge, and then you also have an environmental charge, which are 2 riders on the bill that all makes up your electric energy charges.
Mhm.
Unified government only pays for the fuel and purchase power. Am I correct, Lori?
That's
For
correct.
water pollution only.
Right.
And again, that makes up about a third of the total bill. For everything else the unified government consumes, BPU receives no compensation whatsoever.
That's correct.
Do you know the history of why WPC? And is it all of their Lori, I noted that you had several different water pollution control locations or addresses. Does each address, does WPC pay for all their own stuff? I'm more curious why are they doing the right thing?
Well, that was a long conversation that happened before me, and there was an agreement that was reached between BP and unified government, because we're in the market. We don't supply energy 100% to our 4 load and customer requirements here. So we're in the market selling power, and we're in the market buying power. That really benefits our customers. But those purchase power prices swing based on the economy. So a lot of the purchase power that we purchase are fueled by gasoline. There's a lot of renewables. There's others. So when the price of natural gas have gone up over the years, we have to adjust our rates, and because that Cost still is variable. And before it became a rider, our ability to pay and our customers' ability to pay was quite uncomfortable for all of us. So we made it a rider, a variable rider, so that we could adjust on a quarterly basis. But based on those market conditions and prices, commodity prices, and us not having control over that is what I'm assuming was the conversation at that point. Nor the unified government said, yeah, we'll go ahead and only pay that part, but we're not going to pay for all of the other fixed costs and everything else associated with the bill. I'll take you back to further. Before the unification, the BPU was owned by the city, and the county paid for its BPU services to the county. Over time, that's changed to where now we have unified city and county government together, and the only services that we provide water and electricity to today that we receive any compensation is on water pollution, and it's only on that rider. So everything else has been converted from a paid customer to something we're offering free of charge over time.
Questions or comments? We're
I
headed
have a
towards
few more
wrap up
questions when you're done.
on this. Go ahead.
My second question is more of a business relationship management question. Is there regular review of UG usage?
Yeah, we review it. We keep account of it. We have monthly usage. Lori, I'll let you speak to it, but there's also annual conversations that take place between us and the unified government to let them know kind of what their usage is. But there's constantly monitoring over the BPU. You have anything else to add to that, Lori?
No, I mean, we provide the list, and, there's times where there's a question about a location or whatever, and, they'll go out and verify, make sure, or if we see some big swings in usage, that might indicate there might be an issue, a problem, at that location.
And
So
one thing I'd
go ahead.
also ask, if the UG also expands its footprint and start operating more facilities, owning more facilities, that conversation always comes up there. Is like Monarch Stadium, for example. If you're going to contract, if this is going to become a public-owned ballpark, then BPU can't continue to give free services to for-profit companies occupying space in a public facility. Or if the BPU has buildings and it's renting out to private companies or institutions and they're paying rent, then they should also pay their utilities. So we've been pretty consistent with that message, and we've also done somewhat of a short audit to see, working with the unified government on all of their facilities to see if there's any other things that we need to know about.
Thank you for
Kimberly?
that. My last question is, in the very basic sense, can the UG afford to pay an electric bill?
That's a question for the unified government. I would say I don't know of any other city in the metropolitan area that don't pay at least a wholesale or some type of negotiated or retail rate to its either private or public utility.
Yeah, I'd agree with Bill that that's a policy decision of the UG, but none of the other cities that I know of, unless they have their own utility, maybe Independence.
There is a budget transfer to
Is there?
IPL from the city.
So pretty much all the other cities pay their fair share. They pay their bills. And maybe the UG ought to as well. Even if they own the utility, they ought to at least pay their own bill, at least make them cognizant of their consumption. So any further questions on this subject of free stuff before we move on to our third and final topic? Any other questions or comments? Okay, then our third and final topic, we're going to have a quick presentation from Carrie Van Meveren. essentially about, I would call this employee management issues. So Lori, please, you need to turn on your microphone.
Thanks. My name is
Pull it
Carrie
close,
Van Meveren.
close to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Carrie Van Meveren. I am the CEO for Amazing Traditions. Brian wanted to thank you for inviting me to come today. Appreciate that. Brian had actually signed up for a lunch and learn with, my firm is a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Greater Kansas City and some other chambers here. And we were hosting a webinar or a lunch and learn last month on challenges with influencing change in your organization. And unfortunately, Brian wasn't able to make it. So when I reached out, he invited me to come in and chat with your board. So thank you for that. And so what I did actually, you notice on, so just a quick little thing about Amazing Traditions. So Amazing Traditions is a certified Kansas and Missouri WBE and DBE firm. Been in business for about 9 years at this point. We work with government agencies as well as nonprofits and private sector. We did some work for the new airport. Actually, we're able to help them obtain about $33 million in funding from the FAA for workforce development programs to help support the build of the new KCI airport. We've done some studies on a statewide basis as well as metropolitan based for different agencies. In fact, Senator Moran's office actually used our study for the Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition to look at legislation and impact for the different geographies for homelessness in the state of Kansas. So it's enough about me, but basically I loved the conversation today. I know maybe it's normal routine for all of you, but you know, the conversations you guys were discussing on parking and just the challenges with, you know, identifying things that you're trying to solve, important business problems for the community and for the business members of Kansas City, Kansas is excellent. And the questions you guys asked are just awesome. So I'm gonna be respectful of your time. This is really just a quick condensed of what we discussed at the last lunch and learn, and also we actually have one coming up on the 18th of May. We're doing another one that's actually the topic is the solving the right problem for the largest ROI. And unfortunately, I wish she had been able to stay. But what was her name? The lady from Public Health?
Gilbert.
Gail. Okay. So, you know, listening to some of the questions she asked, I mean, she brings a different perspective, obviously, you know, with regards to where she sits, but I think it sounds like she provides a lot of valuable input on things. So when you're thinking about ROI, it's not always about bottom dollars. Sometimes it's long-term strategy and how the impact is long-term for the community as well. So Brian, I'm going to skip that one video. I'm just going to go to the first one we pulled up, just for time's sakes. So this is like a minute, nope, the other one. And you might want to turn on the sound. Nope, the other video. The other video, yep. Yep, you want to go back to the beginning. So before you get started on this, go ahead. Yeah, this is actually a true story. I think it's about a minute and a half or so. And so before we started, basically, and I apologize for those of you who are not here in person, I've got a short little handout and I'm going to leave some extra copies for Brian if you want to pick these up. So we do assessments and strategic planning. We do studies for organizations and with the assessments. In fact, I worked with Crystal Watson when she was here serving under Mayor Alvey's term, and it was before the pandemic. And it was actually during a time when, I forgot to mention this, Mayor Alvey was wanting to increase the partnerships with the neighborhood associations. I went back to some old emails and found, I don't know if these are all still the same or not, but Argentine Betterment Corporation, Armourdale Renewal Association, Central Area Betterment Association, Downtown Shareholders, Historic Northeast Midtown Association, Leavenworth Road Association, Rosedale Development Association, Turner Community Connection. Are those, I don't know if those are all still, okay, awesome. So what he was wanting to do is to increase the partnership opportunities, working with the neighborhood associations and working with them to kind of increase the collaboration with, UG as well. So, anyway, so when we talk about solving problems, right, and it's about making sure that we're solving the right problems, and that's why I made that comment earlier with regards to really impressed with the questions, especially like Kimberly, when you were asking the questions on why are we doing this, what's the goal with regards to the changes in the parking. It was excellent type of questions, and so when we talk about why we're making the changes, right, are we making the changes for the right reasons, and if so, what is our long-term goal in doing that? And at the end of the day, are we solving the problem that we're trying to fix, right? So the 5 whys, we use a Lean Six Sigma methodology. I am Black Belt Master Certified in Lean Six Sigma. And so one of the strategies about in Six Sigma is really making sure that we're solving the right problems for the right reasons, and identifying root cause. Otherwise, if you're not looking at the root cause, you're really just putting Band-Aids on a bigger issue, and you can end up back at the table in 6 months or a year or what have you, and you're rehashing the same challenges. So this video is really awesome. I think it kind of is a great explanation of doing a 5 why analysis, and it's kind of fun. So go ahead, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Awesome. So has anybody done the 5 why exercise? Anybody online or anybody here in the room? No? Okay. So
I'm also a Six Sigma
again,
Black Belt.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm also a Six Sigma black belt.
Oh, fantastic. Is that Kimberly?
Callie.
Callie? Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you know all about this, and don't you?
Yep.
Okay. Well, maybe you should be sitting here. Okay. What,
Yeah.
can you tell me what your role is on this?
Can I tell
you
you
tell-
about what? I'm sorry.
Can you tell me what your role is?
I'm an urban planner.
What is your position?
Oh, I don't use black belt right now in my current position necessarily. I've used it in previous
Okay.
positions, but I'm still black belt, and then I did most for labor management.
Okay. Awesome. So the 5 whys, so she knows what I'm talking about, but the 5 whys, basically, I've got an example on this next page here. And the problem in this case, I just used as a sample to kind of walk you through. Really, when you think about solving a problem, you want to know why, right? So, when, I'm sorry, your first name was Chris. So when you were talking about trying to solve the challenges with parking and the emptiness, trying to utilize it properly and that type of thing, you started asking the questions, why are they empty, right? And so you continue to keep digging into that. And I think that's an excellent process. And so, even keep it like on a simple basis, like if you, find that you have a flat tire, right? The first thing you do is you look at the tire, you try to figure out, okay, did I hit something? Is it, can it be replaced, or, can be fixed, or does it have to be replaced, right? So you go through a series of asking questions to understand what needs to be done to solve the problem. This next one is a more complicated kind of a path process for the 5 why, for definition for understanding what the true cost is. So for example, on the first one here, so changing operations in response to market conditions was the sample that I used here. So why is that, right? So one thing might be is economic uncertainty. Why is that? Increased cost to produce goods and or services. Well, why is that, right? Laws and regulations changes affecting service delivery. Why is that? Difficulty finding, maintaining talent pool and or available inventory. Why is that? Increased employee expectations. Okay, it could be things like pay, work from home, culture, benefits, etc. And so, when you go back up and you're looking at like for example, when you're asking the question of why, and your answer is say economic uncertainty, and you can take that a step deeper and go say, okay, well, is that why is that, right? Well, it could be market instability. Why is that? Well, it could be uncertainty of impacts for customer behavior, and you can really expand that out much deeper. But this is just kind of an example of taking that through the process of trying to make sure that what you're doing is solving the actual problem, so that you end up with the intended impact that you're looking to have at the end of the day. So for in this case, one of the for the countermeasure for when you go through the 5 why process is working with to solve the changing operations in response to market conditions. The countermeasure would be working with your key stakeholders, identify the root cause, creating the largest pain points by evaluating the processes, tools, and systems using the KPIs, key performance indicators, measurements to affect positive change. And so I have just a short little exercise. There are about 13 questions I'd like to ask you guys to just on a piece of paper. I gave those of you here just a blank sheet, and I'm just going to ask you to rank your answers to yourself, and I'm not going to ask you to share your results. You can keep them to yourself. And it's going to be 1 is going to be the lowest rank, and high is 6. Okay. And so enter the category where we talk, this is about basically assessing your organization that you work for, okay? I'm sorry?
We had to leave to pick up some kids.
Oh, okay, okay. That's fine, no worries. So I'll keep this real quick here. So if you're willing to participate in this, and basically, first question is, do you feel like you have the information needed to make actionable decisions on a daily, weekly, or annual basis? And so your answer would be everything from 1 to all the way to 6. You can just, and then 3 or 4 might be in between.
1 being yes. And
1 would be little. 1 and 2 would be little. 3 and 4 would be some. And then 5 or 6 might be a lot of the time. Do we need to wrap this up? Okay. Well, the point of this, we're going to run out of time, so I apologize. But basically the point of this is that it's asking yourself a series of questions to understand is where do you score with as an organization in response to being able to have access to the data that you need to make good decisions and to make sure that you have the strategic plan in place to achieve those outcomes. You can spend a lot of time pursuing things depending on, if you have the right stakeholders involved and that you have a plan in place. One of the things that we have seen a lot of the challenges is there can be great goals, there can be great plans in place, but if there is, so the SMART goals, if they're not specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and people are held accountable to them, the best goals in the world are going to, struggle in being met because you don't have that follow through in place. So anyways, that's all I have. I appreciate you allowing me to come and participate in your meeting. And I hope you all have a great evening. You have any questions?
Bill Johnson.
Good presentation. That's a lot of thought here, so appreciate you being here too as well. I do want to go back and answer some questions that came up earlier, Brian. And there was a question put up in the chat. There you go. I think it came from Marshall. The question was, does BPU negotiate rates with any commercial customers, or do all customers pay the same rate? So Marshall, the answer to that is every year every 4 or 5 years or so, depending on the cycle and other things that we're dealing with, we do go through a process called looking at all of our rate requirements. It's we charge basically what it costs us to provide electric and water service to the community. So we hire an outside engineering and do a cost of service study to take a look at what it is that we're required to collect in terms of revenue as we provide services to all customers of our city. And from that, rates are developed for different customer classes. So short answer is we do not then negotiate rates with customers. Those different rate classes are put together in different buckets. And if you're a commercial customer, then you pay the full charges for a commercial rate. If you're a residential, you pay a residential. If you're industrial, you'll pay an industrial rate, whether it's water or electric. So that's the short answer, a little bit longer than it probably needed to be, but we do not negotiate rates. We actually base our charges on what it costs to serve the community. I would also say this, I've been trying to work on correcting some misinformation that's out there, and the misinformation haven't just showed up here recently. It's been out there for a while. So one of the questions that BPU has had to answer for years is, do we charge different rates for different sections of town? Is there a northeast rate that's different than a Piper rate, that's different than a southern rate? And the answer to that is no. So all of our customers pay the same rate based on the studies we perform and the rate designs we roll out. So it's not based on location, it's not based on ethnicity or anything else. All of our rates are the same for everybody. Now your bills may be different based on how much you consume of our products. So if you use more energy, then your bill is going to be higher as a direct result of you using more energy, not because of the rates. So hopefully that clears up the thing. And if I didn't answer it, if you have any follow-up, I'll take that question now.
Bill, I have, I guess, two follow-up questions then. I've been under the belief that UG offers some kind of discounted rates to public schools, community college, some types of nonprofit groups.
Yeah, there is a school rate. Lori, are you still on?
Yeah.
I can barely hear you.
She says yes.
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Can you,
The question is, are there's some kind of special rates for public schools, community college? What about, and then what about nonprofit groups?
So we do have a school rate for like USD 500, and that is part of our cost of service study too. But outside of that, for nonprofits or anything like that, they would fall in the category of residential or commercial, or not residential, commercial customer, whether it be small, medium, or large.
And what about churches? I know they're kind of a nonprofit, but what do they pay?
They're in the whatever category, mostly commercial category, probably either small or medium. I think years ago, there used to be a discount rate for churches, but that has long been removed.
And
years ago, there was a discounted rate for industrial groups. So we've tried to correct all of that those past agreements.
And Lori, just to be thorough, you on school rate, you said KCK. Does Turner and Piper and community college also get a school discount rate?
No, so it's just USD 500. And the reason for that is they are an all-electric rate. They're an all-electric customer.
Okay, so the other guys pay commercial?
Right.
Interesting.
Lori, can you quickly run through the major customer classes where the rates would be the same for each one of those classes?
Sure. Excuse me. So we have our residential rate, and we did, have an all-electric rate and a regular residential rate for our non-all-electric customers. In this, we're getting ready to kind of combine that, just have our levels to define an all-electric user. We have 3 commercial classes. One is small commercial, so it'd be somebody like probably a McDonald's or somebody like that. Medium commercial, and then a large commercial. So medium commercial, could be somebody like, could be Applebee's or somebody like that. That has a lot more customer usage. Also, large commercial would be somebody like Nebraska Furniture Mart. And then we have our industrial rate. That would be customers such as General Motors, Certainty, Owens Corning. Those are those categories.
How about the hospitals like KU Hospital or Providence?
I would say they are probably in the large commercial rate category.
And one other follow-up question for me, and this goes back to the discounted or negotiated rates. This was long before Bill was the CEO, but when I was in the legislature, this has been some years ago, but I was approached by some of the larger industrial customers who I was told at this time, and again, I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, but they were able to at that time negotiate better rates, that BP would increase the rates and the big industrial customers would go and negotiate privately and get a better rate. This is what I was told some years ago. Any comment or?
Well, so every time we go put a rate case in front of our board, or anytime there's a rate case with the investor owns at the Kansas Corporation Commission, there's always going to be a large customer group that's going to intervene in that process. And what they're going to ask for is concessions. Years ago, BPU would make some concessions. They were not major concessions, but they'll make some concessions with the large industrial groups. But as I stated earlier, over the years, over the last several years and decades, we've been working towards reversing all of that and getting it back to where customers are actually paying what their true cost of service is. And that hasn't been easy. You know, we've had to go up against some pretty strong attorneys, but we've also put forth an effort to make sure we corrected all of that from the past, and people today are paying as close to their true cost of service as we've ever have gotten them. And things may change in the future years as the price of energy change, as our consumer makeup, our full list of customers. That's why you go back periodically and redo another cost of service study to kind of see where you are in relationship to who's using your power, who's using your water, and what fees need to be charged to each one of these customer groups.
Thank you. Any further questions on any of our topics? We really need to wrap up and finish. Any other questions or comments from the online audience? Going once, twice. Again, we're about to wrap up and close down. Any other questions or comments? All right, then. Well, thank you for everyone's time. Bill, thanks for coming. And Lori, thanks for the presentation. We're adjourned. We'll meet again. We're going to aim for early June, maybe possibly June 8th. I've got an out-of-town trip, and we're going to just hold off till about June 8th for our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.